I'm probably going to ply these up. I think I'm going to use a wheel to ply these up. Usually I use a drop spindle, but I think I kind of want to take this one and the one that I'm making and do a 2-ply together instead of just doing a 2-ply from one ball. So, we will see. We shall see. Exactly. That's exactly it. No one's gonna know the pain I went through. It's not really pain though, but you know. Well, sometimes it can be pain. If I get spinning on my drop spindle too long, later on in the evening, my shoulders let me know that I did too much spinning. There's times when I've woken up in the middle of the night to my shoulders just like cramping right up, and I'm like, "Ow, maybe I spun too long." But now that I've been doing more spinning on my drop spindle, that's kind of like leveled out. It was like when I first started getting back into drop spindling. Now it's like, oop, I did it too much. Well, I I go more than I need to. Also, like if it wasn't for the fact that I'm on camera, I can go down to the floor. So you can do it this way too. But I kind of like to spin on camera. So when I'm sitting at a desk, I'll go up. But when I'm just doing spinning by myself, I'll usually go down. The pains are so rewarding after you see what you've made. Yeah, so you don't have to go like this. And depending on the type of spindle that you have, there's like many different ways. Like there's support spindles, um, where they work off of a like a dish or something, and you literally just spin like this, and then you just kind of like draft out a little bit, and then you reverse it down and put it on the thing. And I want to I've got like this is a cross between a drop spindle and a support spindle, and with my velvet I can basically use my desk, I think, as a dish, and it'll be good. um but I have this one, and then this here, the spindle that's on here, like I made this part, but this spindle is what came with this guy originally, and he was too long, and he is like, he would work probably not with this whirl on it, but he would work as a supported spindle as well. But I think he would need more of a dish. He doesn't spin quite as well. And these are just some examples of spindles. There's some really neat spindles out there that I want to try. I want to try every single kind of spindle out there at some point in my life. But this will probably always be my go-to because I love the way they wrap up and make these really pretty turtle shells, and they're really just awesome. So, oh, I'll put the camera back up now. But yeah, so eventually I will have a bunch of different spindles. Right now I just have, for the most part, a bunch of Turkish style spindles. But I want to get some that have like the top whirl, which means that they go like this. And I want to get some more different kinds of supported spindles. And then there's some that are like a wooden spindle, like just the stick, with a like a kind of like a fatter end on the bottom. And they're just like a kind of spinning type spindle. And I'm like, I want to give that a try. There's this girl on YouTube. Hold on. I absolutely love her channel. Let me find it. I might lag out. Bear with me. My computer doesn't like doing things when I'm streaming. But this, she's like, I love her. She is quirky. She is very much like me. And she does all sorts of spinning. And here she is. Beginning of the month, and I got a new top whirl spindle and a new 3D printed. Nice. Okay, I am back from my ads. I did kind of, I started to respond and then realized that I was in an ad. So, let me reread it again now that I'm not distracted. Nice. That's awesome. Which one do you like the best, or have you used them yet? I love my Turkish spindles. This one's 3D printed, and I do have two more over at my camper. They're not as nice. They're quite bottom heavy, but they still spin good. I really like this one. but I tend to use it as a drop spindle, and it doesn't spin as long because of the larger bottom. But it still works. I just got to get brave enough to, or maybe patient enough to try doing supported spindle. So that's what I want to try. But I do also want to either make or get a top whirl spindle. Nice. How's that going? I can believe it. I heard cotton has a pretty short staple length. I've never spun cotton before. That will eventually go on the list of things to try. Yeah, I noticed that too. Like some of the songs I don't recognize, and then other ones I do recognize, and I'm like, I love it. Have my stream set up now where Twitch doesn't see or record the music or whatever. So like my streams will have music, but my videos after don't. And I'm like, you know what? It's a small sacrifice to play to be able to listen to like decent music and not get yelled at left, right, and center about copyright stuff. And the ones without like I've gone back and watched rewatched some of the videos that I did, and you know it's not that bad. I thought like, oh man, it's gonna be like terribly boring in the parts where I'm not talking, but it's not as bad as I thought. This is like one of my favorite songs. Like, hello, Roxette? Like seriously? I totally overspun that. Yes, there is. Is it too quiet? I can turn it up. I don't know what the music level's at. Sometimes I have it up too high, and other times I have it a little low. It's just like classical guitar-ish style music. Well, it is showing pretty low on my end. Here, I'll turn it up just a tiny bit. There. See if that did any difference. See, I don't hear the music on my stream. Good, yeah, because I don't want to turn it up too loud. Man, I grew up listening to Roxette. That was like I was obsessed with Roxette when I was a kid. when I was younger, I'd have to go to my cousin's place to listen to them because my parents were weird. My dad wouldn't listen to anything other than country. And my mom was very Christian, and she didn't want us listening to anything other than country or gospel music or like some folk music. So if we wanted good music, we had to like listen to the radio or go to friends' houses until we were a little bit older and we started going, no, this is how it's gonna be. I knit and crochet, and yes, I do that. I do. But I'm thinking next year I might attempt to sell some of my yarn at our local market that we have here. Because it like runs all year round pretty much. And then it's just done like, I think every Saturday. And in the wintertime, they usually rent out a space in like our rec center or whatever. So I was thinking of trying that, giving it a little try. Yeah, I think it'll be exciting because I've been to the market a few times and I drive past it lots. And I never see anyone selling fiber related stuff. So, I know that people aren't going to pay like a lot of money. So I need to make it so that it's affordable but still worth my time. And I thought I could do hand dyed roving because I dye as well. Hand dyed roving, some spun yarn, and maybe either become really good at trying to make drop spindles or finding someone local who would collaborate with me on making drop spindles. I would hope so. I would like to think so. I know that like because I was talking to one of the girls at this coffee shop called Flying the Fiber, which is originally it was like a coffee shop, and then they dyed their own yarn and stuff, and they sold yarn, and they even had like a few tables and stuff in there that you could like sit and drink coffee and knit on your projects or whatever. But that sort of like went downhill after COVID. And one of the things she said is like, you know, we weren't really selling the stuff. People were like, oh, well, I can buy it cheaper online or yada, yada, yada. So they stopped bringing in so much stuff because they just weren't selling it. And I'm like, when I look at the stuff, I'm like, it's understandable. We are in a very small town. People aren't going to buy or spend, most people are not going to spend a lot of money on like one little ball of yarn or like this. It's pretty painted roving, but I was the couple times that I've gone in there and looked at stuff, I was disappointed. And I remember going in there the first time I went in there, and I was like, "Oh, do you sell anything like drop spindles or like I could understand not spinning wheels because their store is quite small, but like drop spindles I think would have been an awesome thing. They did have like a little bit of roving, so it's like sell some like even if they only have like two or three in stock at a time, you know, but knitting is fun. Crochet is much easier and it works up faster. But crochet, you can only do so many things. Whereas knitting, you can make drapier, more lightweight outfits that just like I like crochet. Trust me, I love crochet, but I love the way knitted garments feel on me. Because like even if you go down a smaller yarn or hook size in crochet, it doesn't quite have the same feel as a knitted item. Crochet is great if you want to do like fun, chunky outfits. In my opinion, chunky blanket. Well, blankets. I'll crochet a blanket. I won't knit a blanket. No, I did that once. I knitted a whole bunch of dishcloths up and then sewed them together like a if you were doing like crocheted squares and so like granny square. That's the word I was looking for. Kind of like a granny square blanket. But I prefer like if especially for wearing, I prefer knitted items. So like if I'm wearing socks, I prefer knitted socks versus crocheted socks. I have sensory issues with my hands and feet. So yeah, like I wouldn't want to wear crocheted socks or not even a fan of crocheted. I've done crocheted mitts and gloves. Not gloves, but like the fingerless gloves, and they were okay, but I didn't like them as much as I preferred knitted items. So it's good to know both because then you can do different types of textures and patterns. Like there's some beautiful crochet patterns, but there's some also amazingly beautiful knitted patterns that you can't do with crochet. There's some that you can make similar. So that's the difference between crochet and knitting. Crochet is way easier and works up way quicker, and you can make a lot of fun things, but there's just certain things that crochet just doesn't quite hit the mark when it comes to knitting. And again, that's another thing is I think it all depends on the person. Some people do find crochet very hard. And I agree with that. I think because I learned knitting and crochet like pretty close together. Like I picked up crochet faster than I did knitting, but I pretty much learned them all at the same time, and I liked certain things that were knitted versus crocheted. So when I was a kid, I didn't like blankets that were crocheted because I found them too holey. And I'd be like, they're pretty, but I get cold. Now I've learned that there's different stitches where you can make them tighter, so it's not so bad. But I didn't like them. Whereas my brother absolutely like, you crochet him a blanket and he's over the freaking moon. He's just like, oh, another crochet blanket. that can be issue with learning to knit, and it depends on what size of needles you're using. I usually recommend people who are learning to knit to use a larger needle versus the tinier needles. One, it goes faster, and two, the larger needles tend to be a little bit more gentle on the fingertips because a lot of times people who learn how to knit have their stitches extremely tight. Their tension is extremely tight, and when you're like trying to like shove the needles down, yeah, it's hard on the fingers. The best thing to do when learning to knit is pick an easy project that isn't too boring. I always recommend to people when they're learning how to knit to do dishcloths because you get a variety of things that you get to learn, and it works up fairly quick, and it's useful, and it's a good way to practice on your tension. But yeah, I've a lot of people that I've taught how to knit, I started them off with dishcloths because of how easy it is, but you learn in a dishcloth, you get to learn how to not just knit, but you learn how to yarn over, and then you also get to learn how to decrease by knitting two together. So it gives you a bit of variety. And then, of course, it's small, so it works up quick ish. There's a light at the end of the tunnel instead of like picking a big blanket or giant scarf or more complicated things like sweaters and stuff. Oh, and hey, Acid. People have been coming in. I'm so busy chit chatting, I forget to say hello. And then I get going and I'm like, do, 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 do. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't actually say hello. It's exactly what I'm doing is dropping it. Oh yeah, Retro, did you notice? If you look in the channel points, there's something added. I'm not going to have any right now, just so you know. But it's added. Perfect. Perfect. I knew you were going to redeem that. I just finished saying that I wasn't going to have any right now. It's too early in the day. And I don't know how to give points back. But I will have some later. Right now I have like literally this thing is full of they're called quenchers, and it's basically just like a fruit juice with sparkling water. Perfect. Okay, for when I'm ready. Good. It's only 10 to 7 p.m. So it's, yeah. It's early still. It's like dinner time. But I'll hydrate. Hi, buddy. You gonna come say hi? Hi, bud. Come say hi to everyone. Yep, it's late for you. Yes, I'm Pacific. But in the fall, I will switch to mountain. I live in a town that does not change time. So the time zone's always the same. No changing. It makes it very confusing for some people. I've gotten used to it, but